Hi, I'm Mark Bassett, the Executive Director of the Nevada Northern Railway Museum. People come here, number one question they have is, where's the museum? Well, I'm standing in the middle of the museum right now. And instead of going into one particular building to see a museum, here we go into multiple buildings to see the museum. This is touchable history. And so I'm going to invite you on a journey as we go through the museum grounds. So all aboard and follow me. Behind me is the East Ely Depot. It was built in 1907 for the Nevada Northern Railway. During the day, over 4.5 million people went through its doors. And this is where your journey back in time on the Nevada Northern Railway begins, right here at the depot. So let's go inside. Welcome. This is our gift shop and our ticket office. This is where your adventure begins. This is where you purchase your ticket for all of our trains. Our excursion trains run April through November. At the end of November, we begin the magical trains, the Polar Express. Saturday evenings throughout the summer, we have our Saturday evening special event trains. Our next stop is the RIP building, the RIP building, and that does not stand for Rest in Peace. So let's go. This is the RIP building I was talking about back in the gift shop. But before we go inside, I want to mention this plaque. This plaque is dedicated to the memory and service of Art Cahill, callboy to master mechanic, Nevada Northern Railway. He worked for the railway from 1918 to 1964, 46 years. A lot of the guys that came here worked for very long periods of time. And a callboy was quite literally that. In the early days of the railroad, back in 1918, not everyone had a telephone. So if there's a train to go out, the callboy would go from house to house right here in East Ely and go, "You're called for a train." And the master mechanic was the head mechanic. He kept everything running. The copper mine was a very, very tough mistress. Those copper trains had to run 24/7, 365, and it was the master mechanic's job to make sure that happened. And Art Cahill made sure that happened. Here's the door for the RIP, and again, it does not stand for Rest in Peace. It stands for Repair in Place. And inside here is where they did all of the repairs on all of the equipment. And I got some cool things to show you on the inside. So come along. We're in the RIP building here. As I mentioned outside, I had something very special to show you. And this is it. I know it doesn't look like much, but actually it represents the biggest challenge we face here at the museum. And that is capturing the knowledge. This is a rivet heater. And this is a rivet. This is the way America was built. The Empire State Building, your bridges, your locomotives, it was all hot riveted. And this predates welding. The way this worked is you would have a metal plate, you would drill a hole in the metal plate, you would put your rivet in here, and it would heat up until it was red hot. And then after it was red hot, you would put it inside the hole, and you'd have a bucker on the back side, and you'd have a hammer on this side, and it would bang, 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 and then it would form a very nice head. And of course, as metal cools, it contracts, and that contraction would make for a very, very tight seal, a steam-proof seal, and this is a skill that built America, hot riveting, that we need to keep our steam locomotives operating and to keep our cars in good repair. We're standing in one of the blacksmith shops. The railroad actually has two blacksmith shops, one next to the RIP building and then another one behind the machine shop. The blacksmith shop was used for making small metal parts for the repair of the ore cars. And we still have some of their tools here. This is a set of tongs. Here is the big forge. What they burned was coke. not coal. During the day, they'd be heating up their pieces here in the forge and taking it over to the anvil. They would be pounding them, putting them in the shape they needed. If it needed additional heating, heat it up again and take it back again. These guys were very, very clever. If something breaks nowadays, we throw it away and we buy a new one. If they needed something, they would just fix something up so it would work and make the part that they needed to make. And I want to show you one of those examples here in the corner. So right over here. This is the piece I was telling you about. It is actually a press, and it was a press for making these little U-shaped metal things that were used on the cars. But what they did is they made the press out of an air brake cylinder. So here's the RIP building. They're repairing the cars. They said, hey, we need a whole bunch of these little things. How are we going to make them? And they scratched their heads the whole bit, and they said, you know what? We have compressed air in the blacksmith shop. Why don't we take an air brake cylinder, we'll mount it, and then we'll take our pieces of metal, put it there, and we have a little release lever, and this arm comes out, and it takes that piece of metal and it pushes it around this rod here, and voila, you have your U-shaped device. The Nevada Northern Railway was a self-sustaining city. Because we were so remote, we had to have all the skills right here in the yard. We just came from the blacksmith shop. In addition to that blacksmith shop, we had the electrical shop, the boiler shop, and we had the carpenter shop. And the carpenters provided all of the wood, not only for the cars, but also for the buildings and also the signs of the railroad. So let's go inside and take a peek. And this is one of my favorite features of the carpenter shop. It's called the pendulum saw. It is belt driven, and the belts turn this big wheel here. The operator would turn it on, and then they would pull the saw towards them, and they could cut these huge planks. The doors open on either side. There's rollers down here. They'd roll the plank in, pull the saw, roll the plank in, pull the saw. The saw is belt driven, and the belts are powered by an electric motor in the back of the building. And you can see the upper belt there, and then this is the belt that actually drives the saw. Welcome to the machine shop. Our museum is very unique in that we actually let you go into a working machine shop. This lathe here is still used to make parts for the steam locomotive. This is one of those parts. It's a boiler fitting. This would screw into the boiler, and then a piece of pipe would screw into that. Let me show you why this is important, right over here. This is the reason why we have a machine shop, and the machine shop is still in operation. Locomotive 93 here was delivered brand new to the Nevada Northern Railway in January of 1909. Think about it. For over the past century, any repairs that needed to be made to Locomotive 93 was made right here in this building. In 2008, we rebuilt its entire running gear. We dropped all of its wheels, restored them, refurbished them, put her all back together again. She should be running for another century. The steam locomotive was the first invention that didn't require animal power or wind power. Steam locomotive could operate 24/7, 365 days out of the year. It revolutionized society. Basically, our society today is dependent on what the steam locomotives did over a century ago. Welcome to the engine house. This is the end of the line on our tour of the museum. This is the building that people want to come to. This is the building where the steam locomotives, the diesel locomotives are stored, essentially unchanged since when it was built in 1907. As you walk through the engine house, it is just as it's been during the day. Right now it's very quiet, but when the steam crews come in, it takes on a whole different feeling. Thank you for watching. And if you've liked what you've seen, I invite you to join with us. Become a volunteer or become a member. The details are on our website, www.nnry.com. You can make the difference, and you can help us keep these steam locomotives going to show the next generation the story of America. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Railway Fun Facts and Trivia. Check our website often as we update additional episodes and our train schedule and other events that are all happening here at the Nevada Northern Railway National Historic Landmark in Ely, Nevada. This is Mark Bassett saying, I'll see you down the tracks.